I can feel the weight of every punch before it lands, the electricity in the air before contact, that split second where victory or defeat hangs in perfect balance. But here's what most fighters never understand. What took me years of broken bones and bruised pride to discover. The deadliest weapon in combat isn't speed, it isn't power, it isn't even technique. It's something so subtle, so misunderstood that most warriors dismiss it entirely. The most devastating force in any battle is patience, see? True patience. The kind that can watch a hurricane approach and remain perfectly still. The kind that can face a charging opponent and wait, just wait for the perfect moment to strike. You think patience is weakness, don't you? I see it in your eyes, that restless energy, that need to act, to move, to do something, anything rather than simply be. Society has trained you to believe that patience is passive, that it's the consolation prize for those who lack the courage to take action. But I'm here to tell you something that will shatter everything you think you know about power, about success, about combat itself. Patience isn't the absence of action. Patience is the most explosive force in the universe, compressed into a single moment of perfect timing. Let me take you back to a night that changed everything. It was 1967, and I was in my training hall in Oakland, working with a student who couldn't understand why his techniques weren't connecting. He was fast, incredibly fast, incredibly fast. His movements were technically perfect. Something was missing. Faster, he kept telling himself. Hit harder. I watched him exhaust himself against the wooden dummy, sweat pouring down his face, frustration building with every strike. Finally, he stopped, breathing heavily, and looked at me with those desperate eyes I'd seen so many times before, many times before. What am I doing wrong? He asked. I walked over to the wooden dummy and placed my hand gently against it. Watch, I said. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, completely still, feeling the wood grain under my palm, sensing the weight of the dummy, understanding its balance point. My student shifted impatiently behind me. When are you going to hit it? He whispered. That's when I struck. One movement, so quick his eyes couldn't follow it, but the power that came from that single strike made the entire dummy shudder. The difference wasn't in my speed or strength. The difference was in the 47 seconds I spent in complete stillness before I moved. The strike that matters, I told him, begins long before you move your hand. It begins in the space where patience meets understanding. That night, I realized I had been teaching students to fight, but I had never taught them to wait. I had been showing them how to move, but never how to be still. That's when I understood the truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. In a world obsessed with instant everything, patience isn't just a virtue. It's a superpower. You feel it, don't you? That constant pressure to react immediately, to respond to every provocation, to answer every challenge the moment it appears. Your phone buzzes and you reach for it instant. Someone cuts you off in traffic and your anger flares immediately. A problem appears at work and you rush to solve it without thinking. But here's what I discovered in my deepest training sessions, what the ancient masters knew but could never adequately explain. Every premature action is a betrayal of your true power. Think about the last time you acted too quickly, spoke too soon, moved before you were ready. Feel that familiar sting of regret, that knowing you could have done better if you had just waited one more moment. That's not failure. my friend. That's education. Every rushed decision is teaching you the value of the pause, the power of the space between stimulus and response. But most people never learn the lesson because they're too busy making the same mistake over and over again. I want to introduce you to the three great enemies of patience, the forces that have been sabotaging your power since the day you learned to walk. I didn't read about these in any book or learn them from any teacher. I discovered them in moments of perfect stillness, in the spaces between thoughts, in the reflection of my own impatience. The first enemy is the reactor. This is the part of you that believes every situation demands an immediate response. It's the voice that says, do something, anything now, when what you really need to do is nothing. The reactor has convinced you that hesitation equals weakness, that thinking equals cowardice, that preparation equals procrastination. But the reactor isn't your friend. It's the force that makes you send angry emails you later regret, that pushes you to make promises you can't keep, that drives you to start projects you never finish. The reactor feeds on your fear of being left behind, your terror of missing out, your belief that if you don't act now, you'll never get another chance. I spent years of my life enslaved to the reactor, always moving, always doing, always pushing, until I realized that the most powerful position in any confrontation is the one where you choose not to engage until the moment is perfect. The second enemy is the rusher, where the reactor wants you to respond immediately. The rusher wants you to achieve everything immediately. It's the voice that looks at someone who has trained for 20 years and expects to match their skill in 20 days. And 20 days. The rusher is what makes you quit guitar after a month because you're not playing like a master yet. It's what makes you abandon meditation because you haven't achieved enlightenment by the third session. The rusher has poisoned your relationship with time itself, convincing you that anything worth doing should be achievable right now. I remember when I first started developing what would become Gikundu. The rusher in me wanted to have it all figured out immediately. I wanted to create the perfect fighting system in a matter of months. But every time I rushed the process, every time I tried to force the philosophy into premature completion, it fell apart. The breakthrough came when I realized that true innovation requires the same patience that a tree needs to grow. You can't rush growth. You can't force wisdom. You can't speed up the process of becoming. The third enemy, the most dangerous of all, is the escape artist. This is the part of you that uses action as a drug to avoid feeling what needs to be felt, thinking what needs to be thought, facing what needs to be faced. The escape artist keeps you busy, constantly busy, because it knows that in stillness, in patience, in quiet moments, the truth has a way of surfacing. And the truth, oh, the truth, is often uncomfortable. The escape artist is what makes you check your phone every 30 seconds. It's what makes you fill every silence with noise, every pause with activity, every moment of potential reflection with distraction. But here's what the escape artist doesn't want you to know. The very thing you're running from, the discomfort you're avoiding, the silence you're filling, that's where your power lives. That's where your real strength is waiting to be discovered. 2. When I was developing my 1-inch punch, people thought I was crazy to spend months focusing on such a tiny movement. They wanted to see the flashy techniques, the high kicks, the complex combinations. But I knew something they didn't. true power doesn't come from covering distance. True power comes from depth. The 1-inch punch wasn't about the inch of movement you could see. It was about the years of patience that came before that movement, the months of understanding that preceded that technique. Let me tell you about the philosophy that changed everything for me. The ancient masters called it Wu-Wei, but I prefer to think of it as patient action. It's the understanding that there's a perfect time for everything, and that most of the time, and that perfect time is not now. Not yet. Patient action means being like a coiled spring, fully ready to explode into movement, but perfectly content to remain still until the exact right moment arrives. In combat, I learned to watch my opponent not just with my eyes, but with my entire being. I would feel their breathing, sense their rhythm, understand their patterns until I could predict their movements before they made them. But this wasn't about being faster than them. This was about being more patient than them. While they were rushing to attack, I was preparing to receive. While they were eager to strike, I was ready to redirect. The fighter who attacks first isn't necessarily the fighter who wins. Patience in combat isn't just about waiting for the right moment to strike. It's about having the discipline to not strike when the moment isn't right. How many fights have been lost because someone threw a punch 1 second too early? How many victories have been surrendered because someone couldn't wait for their opponent to make the crucial mistake? True martial mastery isn't about having 1,000 techniques. It's about knowing exactly when to use the one technique that matters. This principle extends far beyond the training hall. In business, the most successful people I know aren't the ones who chase every opportunity. They're the ones who have the patience to wait for the right opportunity. In relationships, the strongest connections aren't built by people who say everything they'll feel the moment they feel it. They're built by people who understand the power of timing, who know when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to simply be present. I want to share with you the patience practices that transformed my life, but I must warn you, these aren't quick fixes or instant solutions. They are seeds that must be planted in the soil of your daily life and watered with your consistent attention. The first practice I call the conscious pause. Before every action, every word, every decision, create a space. Just a breath. Just a moment. Just enough time to ask yourself, is this the right moment? Most people live their entire lives without ever creating this space. They go from stimulus to response like a pinball, bouncing from bumper to bumper, never stopping to choose their direction. Start small. Before you pick up your phone, pause. Before you respond to that email, pause. Before you react to that comment, pause. You're not delaying action. You're choosing action. You're not being slow. You're being deliberated. This single practice, if you commit to it completely, will begin to change everything about how you move through the world. The second practice is what I call deliberate observation. Each day, choose something to observe with complete patience. It might be a tree outside your window, a person walking down the street, or even your own thoughts moving through your mind. But here's the key. Observe without the need to do anything about what you see. Don't analyze, don't judge, don't plan. Just watch with the patience of a scientist studying a rare species. This practice teaches you that you can be completely engaged without being compelled to act. You can be fully present without needing to change what's present. Most people think patience means being bored or disconnected, but true patience is actually hyper-awareness combined with perfect stillness. It's being more alive, not less alive. The third practice might be the most challenging for people in our instant gratification culture. I call it strategic incompletion. Choose something you're working on, something you care about, and deliberately leave it unfinished for a specific period of time. Maybe it's a project at work. Maybe it's a personal goal. Maybe it's even a conversation you're having. Set a timer for 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 week, and during that time, resist the urge to complete it. This isn't procrastination. This is learning to sit comfortably with the tension of the unfinished, the unresolved, the incomplete. Most people are so uncomfortable with this feeling that they rush to completion just to make the discomfort stop. What if that discomfort is actually information? What if the urge to finish quickly is preventing you from finishing well? I discovered this principle while working on my films. There were scenes I wanted to reshoot immediately after filming them because they didn't feel perfect. But something told me to wait, to sit with the footage, to let time reveal what needed to be revealed. In many cases, what I thought was imperfect at first viewing turned out to be exactly what the scene needed. The patient eye sees what the impatient eye misses. The fourth practice is perhaps the most profound. Purposeful stillness. Purposeful stillness. Every day for just 10 minutes, practice doing absolutely nothing. Not meditation with a goal, not relaxation with a purpose, just pure purposeful stillness. Sit, stand, or lie down and resist every urge to move, to think, to solve, to improve, to think, to solve, to improve. Just be completely still and completely present with whatever arises in that stillness. This practice will teach you something revolutionary. You'll discover that stillness isn't empty, it's actually incredibly full. In the space where most people think nothing is happening, everything is happening. Everything is happening. Your intuition is speaking. Your wisdom is emerging. Your true priorities are becoming clear, but you can only hear these quiet voices when you're patient enough to listen. Now, I want to address the objection I hear most often. But Bruce, the world is moving so fast. If I slow down, I'll be left behind. If I'm patient, I'll miss opportunities. If I wait, someone else will act first. I understand this fear because I felt it myself. But let me tell you what I've learned from decades of training, teaching, and testing these principles in the most demanding circumstances imaginable. The world isn't actually moving faster. People are just reacting faster. There's a difference. The opportunities that matter, the ones that can truly change your life, they don't disappear in an instant. They reveal themselves to the patient observer, the one who has trained themselves to see what everyone else is missing in their rush to act. Think about the greatest achievements in human history. Were they created by people who rushed or by people who had the patience to perfect their craft? The paintings that move us, the music that changes us, the innovations that transform entire industries, they don't come from speed. They don't come from speed. They come from patience combined with skill, from the willingness to wait until excellence is possible, rather than settling for what's merely adequate. I remember a particular sparring session with one of my most advanced students. He was incredibly gifted. technically superior to most fighters I'd encountered, but he had one fatal flaw. He couldn't wait. The moment he saw an opening, he attacked. The moment he felt pressure, he responded. The moment he sensed an opportunity, he moved. I defeated him not by being faster, not by being stronger, but by being more patient. I let him exhaust himself with premature attacks while I waited for the one moment when his impatience would create the perfect opportunity for me. After the session, he was frustrated. How do I develop that kind of patience, he asked. How do I learn to wait? That's when I shared with him the principle that transformed my entire approach to combat and to life. Patience isn't about waiting for something to happen. Patience is about preparing so thoroughly, understanding so completely, and training so deeply that when the moment arrives, you're ready to act with devastating precision. The patient fighter doesn't wait because they're afraid to act. They wait because they're so prepared, so ready, so completely trained that they can afford to choose the perfect moment. The impatient fighter attacks immediately because they're afraid if they wait, they'll lose their nerve or miss their chance. But the patient fighter knows that true opportunity doesn't knock once and disappear. True opportunity reveals itself to those who have developed the eyes to see it and the discipline to wait for it. This brings me to one of the most misunderstood aspects of patience, the relationship between patience and speed. People think patience means being slow, but that's the complete opposite of the truth. True patience creates the possibility for devastating speed when speed is needed. When you act from patience, when you move only at the perfect moment, your actions carry the accumulated power of all the moments you chose not to act. The most explosive punch I ever threw came after standing completely still for nearly 2 minutes. My opponent was circling, probing, looking for an opening, growing more and more frustrated with my lack of response. Finally, his impatience made him commit to an attack that was just slightly off balance, and in that microsecond of vulnerability, I struck. The power of that punch came not from my muscles or my technique, but from the patience that preceded it. In your own life, think about the times when you've acted from true patience versus the times when you've acted from impatience. When you finally spoke up in that meeting after really thinking through what needed to be said, your words carried weight. When you waited to make that important decision until you had all the information you needed, the decision was better. When you took the time to really understand someone before responding to their anger, your response transformed the entire interaction. But here's where most people struggle. They try to be patient in the big moments while remaining impatient in the small one. They want to have patience for major life decisions while checking their phone every 30 seconds. They want to be patient with their children while being impatient with traffic. They want to be patient with their dreams while being impatient with their daily practice. True patience, the kind that can transform your life, isn't something you turn on and off. It's a way of being that you cultivate moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. Every small moment of impatience you choose to transform is building your capacity for patience in the moments that matter most. Let me share with you the most important lesson I learned about patience, one that took me years to understand and even longer to master. The ultimate practice isn't about being patient with external circumstances. It's about being patient with yourself. Most people incredibly impatient with their own growth, their own learning process, their own journey toward mastery. You want to be better immediately. You want to understand everything right now. You want to achieve your goals without going through the necessary process of becoming the person who can achieve those goals. But here's the truth that can set you free. You are not behind schedule. You are not late. You are missing anything. You are exactly where you need to be in your own unique process of becoming. I spent years being impatient with my own development as a martial artist, as a teacher, as a philosopher. I wanted to reach the mountain top without climbing the mountain. I wanted the wisdom without the experience. I wanted the mastery without the mistakes. But every shortcut I tried led to a dead end. Every attempt to skip steps led me back to the beginning. The breakthrough came when I realized that the journey itself was the destination, that the process of becoming was more valuable than any end result I could imagine. This is why I'm issuing you the ultimate challenge, one that will test every principle I've shared with you. For the next 30 days, you're going to practice what I call the patience protocol. But this isn't about sitting quietly and doing nothing. This is about bringing the precision of a martial artist to the development of your own patience. Day 1 through 7, practice the conscious pause in every interaction. Before speaking, pause. Before acting, pause. Before reacting, pause. You're not trying to be slow. You're trying to be deliberate. Each pause is an opportunity to choose your response rather than defaulting to your reaction. Day 8 through 14. Begin each day by identifying 3 things you want to accomplish. But here's the twist. Deliberately do them slower than you normally would. If you usually eat breakfast in 5 minutes, take 10. If you usually walk quickly to your car, walk slowly and notice everything around you. You're training your nervous system to be comfortable with a different pace. Day 15 through 21. Choose one area of your life where you've been impatient and commit to being systematically patient with it for 1 full week. Maybe it's your fitness progress. Maybe it's learning a new skill. Maybe it's a difficult relationship. What do you see? Not an enemy to be defeated, but an ally to be understood, not a weakness to be hidden, but a strength to be channeled. Your impatience, when transformed through awareness and practice, becomes the fuel for perfect timing. The greatest victory isn't in never feeling the urge to rush. The greatest victory is in feeling that urge and choosing to wait until the moment is perfect. Because when that moment comes, when you finally act from a place of complete preparation and perfect timing, your action will carry the accumulated power of every moment you chose patience over impulse. Be water, my friend, but remember, even water waits. It waits for gravity to show it the path. It waits for the shape of the container to guide its form. It waits for the perfect moment to break through any obstacle in its way. Your patience isn't weakness. Your patience is your power, compressed into the space between heartbeats, waiting for the perfect moment to change everything. The battle is won before the first punch is thrown. The conversation is successful before the first word is spoken. The life is transformed before the first action is taken. All of it happens in that sacred space of patience, where preparation meets opportunity, where stillness creates the possibility for perfect movement, where the greatest combat skill reveals itself not as something you do, but as something you become.